Joshua Williamson wraps up his first story arc as the Superman writer and did not disappoint, doling out lots of great action sequences along with setting up a few big plot points for the upcoming issues, the biggest being Superman and Luthor's working relationship, with the hero agreeing to partner with Lex to help Metropolis and deal with the mysterious new villains with ties to Luthor's past. Williamson really taps into Superman the Animated Series this issue, and not just from an action standpoint, but also how Superman and Lex's interactions are dealt with. We get a classic Superman in the window of Lex's office shot, only this time it's in a prison cell, and he's done a great job setting up the uneasy alliance with these two characters, filling it with great little bits where the characters just kind of snipe at each other with verbal jabs and comebacks, especially Lex, who's always going on about how Superman needs him and needs to get over his ego and everything, and I just love that dynamic. The use of Parasite and how his powers were deployed made for a really unique and challenging threat to Superman, and I loved that just like in the animated series, it required him to get suited up in a special anti-parasite suit, which is just like his lead-line suit he'd have to wear every now and then in the cartoon when dealing with kryptonite. I had hoped though that Williamson would have teased the villains a little bit more by now, or at very least given us a little bit more page time with them, since we've barely gotten anything with them. But what little we have gotten, Williamson uses to great effect to set out their agenda and targets and tease some really horrifying stuff happening with Bizarro's corpse. Jamal Campbell again outdoes himself with fantastic action spectacle, following Williamson's lead with the animated series inspirations when it comes to depicting Superman and Parasite's fight, and Superman's awesome red and white hazmat suit. I loved Campbell also brought back his amazing red-hued pages from the last issue, bathing the first couple of pages of this issue in a sinister scarlet light that really sells the horror of a parasite-infected Superman on the loose. Superman issue 3 was another absolute banger of an issue, finishing up the Parasite story in a fun way while also taking Lex and Superman's working relationship in an interesting and creative direction. I am going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Superman issue 3 finds Lex deriding Superman for letting Metropolis, the city of tomorrow, fall to the parasites, all thanks to his ego. Suddenly, the parasite-infected Superman smashes into the villain's prison cell, telling Luthor to come with him. Superman takes Lex from the cell as the villain figures that the parasites have evolved into microscopic versions and invaded the hero's body, and now he's finally there for his help. Superman says he's not there for Lex as he rips open Livewire's cell. Livewire thinks the infected Superman is going to eat her, hoping Lex won't let him do that to her, since Livewire is a Metropolis institution. Superman takes Lex and Livewire to Supercorp, where Mercy and Lex strap her into a chair. Superman explains that they need power, and Lex tells her that she is bait to draw the real parasite to them so they can find out what happened to him. The Super family meanwhile continue to try and keep the parasites at bay with their ice walls, as Lex promises Livewire that this won't hurt, and Superman tells him it better not, as he dresses in a special white and red hazmat supersuit, throwing the switch and lighting up Supercorp. The parasite horde rushes towards the building as the microscopic ones in Clark's bloodstream leave the hero's body, freeing him from the infection. Clark seals his super containment suit so he won't be infected again, intent on going to find Rudy before the horde becomes too much for the building to handle. Lex spots the original parasite in the crowd as Superman confronts the being, telling him that he doesn't want to fight, since these clones are all just pieces of him, and if they don't get him together, he could die. He wants to talk it out with the villain, but Parasite jumps at Superman, craving a midnight snack as he takes some of Superman's power, but the hero fights him off as the clone tries to get at the hero as well, prompting Rudy to kick it away, not wanting to share his meal. Clark again tries to talk things out, telling the villain that he let him have some of his power on purpose so he will have enough strength to absorb the other parasites. Lex and the others battle the parasites along the rooftops as Superman convinces Parasite that the clones have absorbed all of the energy in Metropolis, and that's all the food the villain will need. Parasite begins to absorb all his missing pieces back into himself, becoming a giant homunculus of a monster. Livewire thinks that he's about to burst, but Lex tells her to calm down, injecting him with a neutralizer that knocks him out and negates the radiation poisoning that was causing his powers to change and killing Rudy. The next day, the city changes back to normal and Clark returns to the Daily Planet, asking everyone what he missed, since he was locked in a bathroom all night. Jimmy can't believe that happened to him yet again as Lois reunites with her husband. Jimmy announces that breakfast for the bullpen is on him, as later on Lois learns all about the Supercorp and Lex's offer for Superman to work with him and the company, wondering if he wants the hero to say no and that's part of his plan, or maybe he wants the hero to say yes and join him and that's part of his plan. Clark settles Lois down, but she tells him that if Clark wants to really know what Lex is up to, he's going to have to play the villain's games. Clark doesn't like playing any game that doesn't involve a ball, wanting to just tune Lex out. Lois takes off to investigate the spirit of Metropolis Clark told her about, but before she does that, she tells him that he doesn't need to listen to the music alone, wanting to dance with her husband, much to the chagrin of the rest of the Superman family. Later on, Livewire is reincarcerated in Stryker's Island as Superman comes to see Lex, telling him that Star Labs checked out Parasite, and he was totally healed of the radiation infecting him, which means that Lex fulfilled his promise and actually saved Rudy. Superman wants to know why Lex didn't use that opportunity to escape, so Lex tells him that he really wants to help the hero, knowing all about the terrible people who changed Parasite and how they are turning Metropolis into a deadly experiment. He feels there is more to it than that though, and believes together he and Superman can save not just Metropolis, but the world. Superman decides that he's not going to give up on Luthor, giving him a box before disappearing. Lex opens the box, finding a signal watch inside as Superman goes to Supercorp, joining Mercy in the lab to get to work saving the city. Elsewhere, Graf tells Dr. Farm that he was right and Superman went to Lex after they experimented on Parasite, which means it's only a matter of time before he finds out about them thanks to Lex telling Superman all about them. He finds it entertaining how much Lex wishes Superman would listen to him, but doesn't understand others might be listening as well. As Dr. Farm looks over the freshly cut off head of Bizarro, his brother tells him that Lex is lying to Superman about them, and the hero will find out eventually, but in the meantime, it's time they find their next test subject, focusing in on Silver Banshee.